The IRS fought captive insurance for nearly 30 years. They advanced three legal arguments in their challenges. The first was the economic family argument. Here, what the IRS basically argued was that because a captive insurance company and the parent's economic interests were so aligned that there could be no risk shifting, that is, that the parent company could not purchase a viable insurance product from the captive. Next, they argued that a court should analyze the insurance contract at the shareholder level as opposed to the corporate level. This was in vogue at the time. It was called the nexus of contracts theory. The IRS only tried this argument in one case. Finally, there was the assignment of income doctrine. This is actually an old tax situation where a taxpayer in a high-income tax bracket shifts his income. He assigns it to a taxpayer in a lower tax bracket. Now, notice here that over 30 years, starting from the time the IRS started developing their theories to challenge captive insurance, to the cases where they tried, beginning in '78 and ending in 1999, we have three arguments. Here is the key takeaway. No court accepted any of the IRS's arguments against captive insurance. As such, we now have three safe harbors. Now, a safe harbor is simply a way that you do something to comply with the law. That is, if you're going to do this, here's how you do it, and you won't get in trouble. Let's begin with a case from the early 1990s called Harper. The Harper case gave us a three-pronged test to determine whether or not an insurance company, a captive insurance company, was a viable insurance company. First, the arrangement has to involve the existence of insurance risk. This is actually very easy to demonstrate. And the reason why is that, first of all, everybody has a risk of some sort or another. But most importantly, in forming a captive insurance company, we bring actuaries in to look at a company to determine where the risk is. Second, there must be risk shifting and risk distribution. These are legal requirements from a case in the 1940s called Helvering v. Legiers. Risk shifting simply means that when X happens to the individual shareholder, to the policyholder, the insurance company pays for it. It's accomplished through a valid insurance contract. Risk distribution is seen from the insurance company's perspective. It requires the insurance company to diversify its risk. What it means practically is that every captive insurance company must purchase some type of a reinsurance policy. Finally, the arrangement must be for insurance in its commonly accepted sense. I call this the duck test. Does the company walk and talk like an insurance company? Now, the second set of safe harbors come from revenue rulings that the IRS issued in 2002. These are revenue rulings 2002 A9, 90, and 91. A revenue ruling is basically a pronouncement from the IRS, where the IRS says, if you're going to do this, here is how we will treat a transaction. The first requires a captive insurer to derive at least 50% of its insurance revenue from a non-parent. Harper lowers this amount to 30%. And this is, again, typically accomplished through a reinsurance risk pool. Or a captive must have at least 12 subsidiaries in order to have sufficient risk distribution. This idea, or this concept, came from the Humana case in 1989 and is now part of IRS doctrine. However, the best safe harbor is a private letter ruling. Now, a private letter ruling is issued for a fee upon a taxpayer's request and describes how the IRS will treat a proposed transaction for tax purposes. Private letter rulings create certainty, that is, we know how the IRS will view a specific transaction. Now, as an attorney, I will always advise a taxpayer in a captive transaction to obtain a private letter ruling. And again, the reason why is certainty. It also places the client at ease with the transaction. Finally, this is a practice heartily endorsed by Wealth Management Solutions, who's the captive manager I work with. And that's a primary reason why I work with them. If you have any questions, please contact me at 832-330-4101 to discuss this further. Again, my number is 832-330-4101.